Hello and welcome back to the Sex and Healing podcast. I'm your host, Erin, and thank you so much for joining me as we take this wild ride together through the realms of sex and healing. I am very excited about today's episode, but let's get real. I say that at the beginning of every episode. I am so excited about this one. This is about the history of masturbation. Now, I'm extremely passionate about empowering women into having better solo sex for numerous reasons. It helps us understand our bodies more. It helps us expand our orgasmic potential. But most importantly, it helps us up-level in all areas of life. I really believe that when we understand our body's potential and we're in charge of our body's orgasmic potential, then we no longer outsource. And when I teach women this information, they are empowered in so many areas of their life. And I see it cascading out and touching and empowering them in so many different ways. So I have just launched my new course, Power and Pleasure, which is all about awakening the pleasure portal that is this feminine body. So I'm very excited to share that with you. And it is the cheapest that you'll ever be able to access it at the moment for launch. So make sure you check out the show notes for all the details around Power and Pleasure. Now, if you enjoy this podcast, as always, I would love if you subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you feel inclined, please leave a 5-star written review on iTunes and share this episode with anyone that you think will enjoy it. Now, today's session is going to be very, very sciencey and very, very fact-driven. So for those of you out there that are data nerds, I hope you enjoy it. And for those of you that are just curious about the history of masturbation, I think it's going to blow your mind. So what we're going to do is look at the world history of masturbation and then also create an opportunity for you to have a look at your own personal history with masturbation. So when we look back at the history, masturbation used to be known as onania, which is something that I did not know. But if we go even further back into ancient Egypt, God Atum, who was the god of creation, it is said that he created the universe through masturbation. His ejaculate became the Nile, and each year the fertility festival, the pharaoh would ejaculate and then they would ceremoniously ejaculate together into the river each year to bring more prosperity. Now, I fucking love that. I would love to have a big mutual masturbation fertility festival for prosperity for everyone, but they say that the universe was even created through masturbation. When we look at the ancient Middle Eastern pagans, they would engage in orgiastic mutual masturbation sessions during the harvest. Again, something I would be so happy to take part in, especially for the good of the people, the good of the harvest. The key was to ejaculate at the same time, again, therefore summoning beneficent energies from the gods of life and land. Although pagans deem sex as a sacred act, using autoeroticism as a form of alchemy to bolster sex magic was totally natural. Now, I'm down with that, and I would totally agree that autoeroticism is alchemy. The oldest dildo ever found was from 30,000 years ago and unearthed in Germany. When we have a look at religion, now religion has had a massive influence on masturbation. So we're going to have a look at a few different religions. In Buddhism, it doesn't say ordinary people can't masturbate, although it is prohibited by the Buddha's rules for monks and nuns who are supposed to live celibate and chaste lives. In the Catholic Church, they view masturbation as an intrinsically and gravely disordered action. Any sexual act outside marriage not intended for procreation is considered inappropriate. And in 1975, Pope Paul VI outlined why masturbation is wrong in a declaration on human sexuality called Persona Humana. Most conservative Christians do not condone masturbation, although masturbation is not explicitly mentioned in the Bible. Christians often conclude that masturbation itself is not a sin, but it is often related to lust, which many Christians believe is sinful. Most liberal Christians do not find masturbation to be morally offensive, integrating findings of science and research of human sexuality into their beliefs. Many pagans and Wiccans view human sexuality as very important and often integrate sexuality into their religious practice. I am so down with this. I'm sure I've been pagan and Wiccan in many lifetimes. Pagans and Wiccans tend to have a more liberal, sexual ethic that many other religions and many pagans and Wiccans view human sexuality as very important and often integrate sexuality into their religious practice. Now, I fucking love that. And I'm sure I've been pagan and Wiccan in many lifetimes. Wiccans and pagans tend to have more liberal sexual ethic than many other religions and therefore are unlikely to condemn masturbation. According to Hinduism, sexual pleasure is part of karma, one of the 4 goals of life. On the matter of masturbation, Hindu scripture is silent, neither labeling bad nor encouraging the practice. Traditional Islamic thought regards masturbation as haram or forbidden, and the Mormon church strongly condemns masturbation and teaches that it's a sin. The church teaches that followers should learn to overcome the impulse to masturbate to retain the sacredness of procreation, and the Mormons must control sexual desires until marriage. So you can see that religion has had a huge varying influence on our thoughts and moral standards and ethics that is still present in society today. So in 1716, there was an anonymous pamphlet called Onania, or the heinous sin of self-pollution and all its frightful consequences in both sexes. That's a mouthful. Onania, or the heinous, Onania, or the heinous sin of self-pollution and all its frightful consequences in both sexes. You can tell that's not a word that I pronounce very often. Oh man, I'm tongue-tied today. Now, in this pamphlet, Onania, it said the shameful vice, the solitary act of pleasure, was something too terrible to even be described. The writer agreed with those who are of the opinion that it never ought to be spoken of or hinted at, because the bare mentioning of it may be dangerous to some. Well, I'm fucked. It said that the frightful consequences of self-pollution include gonorrhea, fits, epilepsy, consumption, impotence, headaches, weakness of the intellect, backache, pimples, blisters, glandular swelling, trembling, dizziness, heart palpitations, urinary discharge, wandering pains, and incontinence. And then J.H. Kellogg's, who created Kellogg's cornflakes, created The Plain Facts for Young and Old in 1877, which contained both exaggerated horror stories and grand claims. Neither the plague, nor war, nor smallpox, nor similar diseases have produced results so disastrous to humanity as the pernicious habit of onanism. It is the destroying element of civilized societies. So fear, shame, and guilt are the 3 most controlling factors if you want to control humans. It's unbelievable what those 3 influences have done to the collective consciousness of society. So when you start depositing ideas like this into people's consciousness, that gets embedded in their subconsciousness, that gets passed down for generations. The effects of this kind of messaging is still present in our society today, even though this is hundreds of years ago. That's what's so fucking crazy. If you reverse engineer the fear or the misunderstanding we have around masturbation now, and we can trace it back, like most anciently it was sacred and then it gets completely destroyed, but a reclamation is happening, my friends. So I came across some research that told me what different countries around the world have to say about masturbation. And it told me that the penalty for masturbation in Indonesia, the country in which I live, is decapitation. So again, I'm fucked. But it did turn out to be fake news. But the fact exists. If you Google the penalty for masturbation in Indonesia, you'll come across the article that says it's decapitation. In the US, laws vary from state to state, and in 2009, the Supreme Court of Alabama outlawed the sale of any device designed primarily for the stimulation of human genital organs, in an effect to target sales of masturbation machines. So no buying dildos for my friends in Alabama. In Texas, according to the Tribune Herald, a new measure came into force on the 1st of January 2014, which will make many forms of male masturbation illegal. The penalty can be up to 2 years in prison. and exceptions include sperm donations, which must now only be performed at a designated hospital facility. So sorry, Texan friends. In 1974, Betty Dodson, who is amazing. If you don't know Betty Dodson, she's definitely someone to look into. She was a pioneer, and she was a sex educator in the 70s, and she really started to turn things around for women. She had a book called Liberating Masturbation, which was renamed and republished as Sex for One. And it sold more than 1 million copies. And she also ran body sex workshops in Manhattan with their all-women masturbation circles. So I love that around this time, around the 70s, when we saw the sexual revolution happening anyway, we see women starting to learn about the pleasure capacity of their bodies, how to activate the pleasure potential, how to expand the pleasure potential, and to start to normalize it again. So we really see things starting to turn around then. In the US, masturbation has not been a diagnosable condition since 1968 in the DSM. The American Medical Association consensually declared masturbation as normal in 1972. So we're looking at about 40 years ago. Oh, 50 years ago now, sorry. I've just calculated that because I turned 40 and I was born in 1982. Oh man, I'm nearly 40. So 50 years ago, we start to see this turnaround, and it's no longer declared as abnormal or a diagnosable condition just 50 years ago. Thomas Saz states that the shift in scientific consensus as masturbation, the primary sexual activity of mankind. In the 19th century, it was a disease, and in the 20th, it's a cure. And I love that. It is a cure. In 2018, the Global Self-Pleasure Report, created by Tenga, who developed the world's largest survey, compiling data from more than 13,000 respondents aged 18 to 74 and across 18 countries. So they found that people in the United States who've used sex toys report being more satisfied with their sex life across all metrics, but especially when looking at quality, which was 82% versus 55%. So massive increase in quality of sex life for those who use sex toys, and the frequency, which is 78% to 55% of masturbation. So huge increase in satisfaction, quality, and frequency of sex when people have used sex toys. This report also said that 78% of adults around the world masturbate, including 96% of British men, 93% of German men, 92% of American men, and 78% of British women, 76% of German women, and 76% of American women. And of those who masturbate, gay and bisexual individuals are 20% more likely to masturbate weekly than heterosexual individuals. Hi. No surprises there. The average age in which people begin masturbating varies slightly by country. 15.2 in the United States, 15.3 in the UK, and 15.8 in Germany, which means I started masturbating at nearly half that age. Years and years and years earlier than average. So understanding that this is the global snapshot, I now want you to consider your history. What were the stories and the rumors that you heard about masturbation when you were young? Who taught you about it? Were you told off for it? Were you shamed for it? Did you get caught? Did you discuss it with friends? What is your personal masturbation history? And when you look at that, how much of your potential could be laying unexpressed if you haven't been taught about it, if you were never informed or given options? It's often just fumbling around and finding that something feels good, and you just do that one thing. And for some people, their masturbation practices never changed throughout their life. They've just been doing the same thing since they started fumbling around at 15.2 years old. So then why would we want to masturbate? So research shows that masturbation, as well as other sexual activities leading to sexual pleasure or orgasm, trigger the release of hormones and chemicals involved in the brain's pleasure and reward center. So we are essentially biohacking the body to be able to release and control and access all of these delicious biochemical rewards in the body. So it's been shown that it will release dopamine, which is known as a happiness hormone, and it's an important neurotransmitter involved in motivation, movement, and reward seeking. So dopamine is that hit that you get when you've done something well. It releases oxytocin, one of my favorites, the love hormone. Oxytocin has a wide range of behavioral and physiological effects, such as promoting sexual, social, and maternal behaviors, and it's associated with happiness. It also supports well-being, positive social interaction, growth, and healing. So that is that good old feeling when you've had lots of cuddles and hugs from people that you love and animals, and get all topped up on that. Then we've got serotonin, which is a neurotransmitter that helps mediate happiness, source optimism, and satisfaction. So serotonin, I would call the satisfaction hormone. There is a link shown also between high serotonin levels and an increase in mood. So decreased serotonin decreases the mood. So we have the ability to boost our mood through a good wank. We can also release endorphins, which are known as feel-good chemicals that reduce pain better than morphine. They're responsible for a pleasurable rush or a high associated with exercise. Then prolactin. This is the hormone that promotes physiological responses to reproduction, stress management, and emotional regulation. It's what's created between a mum and a newborn baby to ensure that bond. And they're endocannabinoids. These are neurotransmitters that are vital to rewarding behaviors such as exercise, social interaction, and eating. They also help regulate processes such as pain, inflammation, metabolism, cardiovascular function, learning and memory, anxiety, depression, and addiction. Also, norepinephrine and noradrenaline. These are stimulating neurotransmitters that increase and regulate dopamine transmission. Adrenaline. Adrenaline can also lower stress by helping regulate the heart rate, blood vessel, and airway diameters, and an aspect of metabolism. And so when we masturbate and release or experience any kind of sexual pleasure, and we release this flood of various hormones and neurotransmitters throughout the body, the benefits that can come from that are massive. We can reduce stress and anxiety. Like, think of chronic stress on the planet and how much ill health has come from chronic stress and how much disease comes from chronic stress. Imagine if everyone had a good wank every day. Imagine if everyone knew how to fuck themselves so well that they could release all of these hormones and we could reduce the stress limit on the planet. It would be fucking amazing. We can improve our sleep. So another reason why people like to have a good wank before they fall asleep, if they can't fall asleep, is it can put us back to sleep because it releases those hormones and neurotransmitters that release stress and promote relaxation. 2019 study surveyed 778 adults and found there was a clear perception of favorable sleep outcomes associated with orgasms. Many respondents felt that masturbation helped reduce the time it takes to fall asleep and improve sleep quality. And I can advocate for that one for sure. Reduced pain. How's this? A natural painkiller. So it releases the endorphins and the endocannabinoids that are known to help regulate pain and inflammation processes. And this is really a positive outcome for period pain. So another reason why people masturbate often or bring themselves to orgasm is to ease back pain and menstrual pain during PMS, which is freaking amazing. It can also improve our immune function. When it raises the levels of prolactin and endocannabinoids, it can help regulate the immune system. So again, like, we're just bringing the body into that state of health and well-being. Very, very different from what Mr. Kellogg's told us. It can improve our mood. Everyone feels good after a big orgasm. Masturbation may increase hormone levels associated with positive mood. It can improve our focus and concentration as well, which again is fucking amazing. Like, all these things that people turn to illegal drugs for can be found in the body after a good wank. It can also improve our self-esteem. Now, this is the one that I harp on about all the time. We can actually scientifically link masturbation to the adrenaline levels, and the adrenaline, the higher levels of adrenaline in the body can also be related to higher levels of personal growth and a sense of purpose. So learning how to pleasure oneself can also be empowering and improving body image. So getting to understand your body better and getting to enjoy your body better starts to raise our standards across the bar. It raises our standards across the bar. Is that the right word? Gosh, I'm so I'm so tongue-tied. Not the greatest thing to be when you're a podcast host, but I have scientific evidence that it can improve self-esteem, and that's all that matters. It can also improve our sexual function. So we actually learn to hold more orgasmic energy in our body. We train our nervous system and our neural pathways for more pleasure. And especially after times of any kind of sexual trauma or sexual assault, it allows us to reclaim our sexual pleasure without any risk. It's something that we're doing for ourselves, with ourselves. We can honor and respect our own boundaries. We don't have to have any of the complications that might come with relating to others. And for people that have experienced any kind of lack of sexual function or sexual trauma, it can be such an empowering thing. And it can improve cognition. Maybe that's what's wrong with me now. Maybe I should have had a big orgasm before I started recording so that I wouldn't be so tongue-tied and my brain would be more switched on. This is where I went wrong, folks. I haven't masturbated since I first was in bed this morning. Woke up with my vibrator beside my pillow. God bless. So it can also reduce blood pressure in the body, which is amazing. And it can improve performance in bed for men. But of course, if it becomes a compulsive behavior, if it becomes an addiction, it can actually decrease performance. It can create such strong neural pathways to experiencing pleasure only in one form that you prohibit other forms. So everything that I'm talking about here is quite clearly and obviously the healthy use of masturbation rather than an unhealthy or compulsive way. So that's the history of masturbation, my friends. We're now in this position where the world is changing. Our mindset towards sexuality is changing. The freedoms and the liberties that we have available to us, particularly as women, are changing. And I'm really passionate about teaching solo sex and masturbation and pleasure and teaching women how to unlock these pleasure potentials in the body. Like, we can all have so many types of orgasms and multiple orgasms and develop our body in this way that it is such a portal for pleasure, but no one's ever taught us how to do it. It's something that we fumbled around in the dark, and we're overcoming all of this cultural shame and conditioning around it. And now is our time. My desire is to teach women how to fuck themselves so fucking well that you will never, ever, ever settle for less again. That you will be so full of your own love, your own power, your own energy, and your joy, that you've trained your body to hold so much orgasmic energy that you are a changed woman. So, as you can hear, I'm very passionate about it. My cause, Power and Pleasure, is exactly for that, to teach women how to get all of the empowerment that comes from understanding pleasure. So you can find the details for my course in the show notes. And as always, thank you so much for being here. I hope that you've learned something. I would love to hear from you. Come and find me on Instagram and share the love. Let me know your takeaways. Let me know what you loved. Let me know what triggered you, what questions you have. Tell me what kind of rumors you heard about masturbating when you were growing up. Did you hear it would send you blind or make your palms hairy or some other craziness? Make sure you subscribe, my friends. Share this episode. And until next time, laugh loud and fuck louder.